Welcome back. In this week's Police Beat, officers responded to a robbery at the Glen Burnie Walmart at 2:30 in the afternoon on February 28th. Joining us now is Public Information Officer Justin Mulcahy with further details on this investigation. Justin.
Thanks, Eric. When officers arrived on scene, they spoke with a victim, an 85-year-old female from Brooklyn Park, who indicated that she was attacked by a male suspect while loading items into her vehicle in the parking lot at the Walmart. During the incident, the victim was pushed to the ground and the suspect unsnapped her fanny pack from around her waist and fled towards West Ordnance Road in a vehicle that was described as a white, full-size van with no windows on the sides or the rear. The van was also displaying an older-style Maryland registration plate. Several officers canvassed the area but were unable to locate the suspect or the suspect vehicle. The victim in this incident sustained no injuries during the robbery. Anyone with information on this incident is asked to contact the Northern District Detective Unit at 410-222-6135. The suspect in this case is described as a black male in his mid-30s, approximately 6 feet tall, with a clean cut, also a thin build, last seen wearing a green sweater. We're going to move on now to our second incident, which took place on February 17th around 12:55 in the afternoon. That's when officers from the Eastern District responded to the 4100 block of Mountain Road in Pasadena for a report of a recovered purse. Officers conducted an investigation and determined that the recovered purse had been stolen from a shopping cart at the Safeway that was located in the 4200 block of Mountain Road. A customer shopping at the Safeway placed her purse in the shopping cart and left it unattended briefly. That's when two suspects stole the purse and fled the scene. It was learned that the suspects took the purse to a restroom on Mountain Road, emptied out the contents, and stole several items. Officers were able to obtain video surveillance of those suspects. Fast forward now to February 28th, that's when the Anne Arundel County Police Department released surveillance photos of the suspects to the media and the public. As a result, detectives received numerous tips from citizens who recognized the suspects on the department's Facebook page and from local media coverage. Furthermore, as the investigation advanced, a citizen who saw both suspects on Facebook contacted police as he recognized two suspects matching their description inside of the Royal Farm store that's located in the 8400 block of Fort Smallwood Road in Revere Beach on March 1st around 1 a.m. Officers located the two suspects a short time later in the area of Elizabeth Landing Way in Gambier Harbor with suspected marijuana and drug paraphernalia. Both suspects were arrested and charged accordingly. Detectives are looking into the possibility that the suspects may be responsible for other thefts, and the investigation is ongoing. First suspect in this case is Dustin Bauman, age 19, of 7792 East Shore Road in Pasadena. The suspect was charged with possession of controlled paraphernalia, possession of hypodermic syringes, and possession with intent to use paraphernalia of drugs. Suspect number 2 is Jillian Renee DeFalba, age 19, of 1226 Michelle Circle in Millersville. The suspect was charged with possession of marijuana and possession of paraphernalia. As always, if you have any information on anything we mentioned on the show, don't hesitate to call, email, or text your tip to Metro Crime Stoppers hotline. That number is available 24 hours a day, toll-free at 1-866-7-LOCK-UP, or you can text message MCS plus your message to crimes at 274-637. Also visit the website at www.metrocrimestoppers.net. Remember, phone calls are not recorded and callers remain anonymous. You might even be eligible for a cash reward of up to $2,000. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks, Justin.
This week, Mary Felter talked to Sherry Torciello of Kin Connections. Mary?
Thank you, Carla. Today, my guest is Sherry Torciello, who is the Kinship Navigator with the Department of Social Services. I've asked her on the program today to talk about Kin Connections. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mary. Pleasure to be your guest today.
I understand Kin Connections is really about maybe a grandparent who is raising a grandchild or a niece or a nephew. It's someone who's maybe not a direct relative of someone. Is that a good definition of it?
Yes, the population that we're speaking of today are relative caregivers. So it's any adult caregiver taking care of a relative's child on a full-time basis. Could be a grandparent, could be an aunt and uncle, cousin, godparent, nephew, neighbor, step-parent, yes.
And so how did Kin Connections get started? What is the program exactly?
Kin Connections got started in Anne Arundel County about a year ago, and the process was that we were awarded part of a grant. We were one of 7 counties to be fortunate enough to be awarded a grant through Maryland Department of Human Resources. We took last year to have a recruitment phase in which, spearheaded by our director, Marcy Kanai, she started to facilitate a steering committee that would meet as an advisory board to develop things like a resource manual, start getting the ball rolling for support group criteria for kinship caregivers, and to make other advisory decisions. Out of that, we have actually partnered as an Anne Arundel County Department of Social Services with 3 other county partnerships, and those include Anne Arundel County Department of Aging and Disabilities, Anne Arundel County Board of Education, and Anne Arundel County Recs and Parks.
I wanted to ask, what are some of the problems that the relatives might have when they first take in a child?
Well, what we have understood from the kinship caregivers directly speaking to us, because it's very important for them to have their voices heard. We started having some focus groups back last year in the late spring. And what we heard from them is that they really are a population that still feels rather alone. They still are challenged with who can they talk to about their new situation, about the child entering their home? Is it safe to talk to the school system? Is it safe to talk to some faith-based organizations? Is it safe to talk to their neighbors about it? They really are crying out for more of a support system than they have. Other issues are intergenerational differences. A lot of the relative caregivers have had children before, but they're grown up now, they're out of the house now. Times have changed as far as regulations, as far as entering and enrolling in school, as far as what immunizations you need now, things like that. Other things are, a lot of times the children enter a relative's home rather unexpectedly, rather quickly. So there's not a lot of time to plan. There's not a lot of time to think about the preparation of how long the child may be in my home. Certainly some children are there from birth or infancy. Other children enter the home at a rather abrupt time in their life. It's very different. So we've found that the caregivers share many of the same challenges, but there really isn't a puzzle that each experience can just fit into. Everyone's experience is different.
And sometimes the caregiver themselves have to change their lifestyle a lot, and that is a problem. They might have to stop working or change their hours for work, or what are some of the other problems they're facing?
Yes, there are other hardships, such as some caregivers are in the phase of retirement and they may have to go back to work. Other caregivers have suffered some kind of physical ailment themselves. We have caregivers that range from in their 20s up to in their 80s. So depending on how they're feeling at their stage in their life, physically, emotionally, socially, a lot of changes have to be made.
So how do they connect with you, the kinship navigator? What do you want people to do who are in these shoes that they're wearing now?
Well, there's a couple of avenues. I have received phone calls from self-referrals, just individuals throughout the county that are taking care of relatives' children, and they have heard about my name, Cher Torciello, and my phone number at Department of Social Services is 410-897-3933. We also look to our partners throughout the county to make referrals themselves or to give the caregiver my phone number and they can call on their own time. And again, those partners are the Department of Aging and Disabilities, the Board of Education, and Recreation and Parks for Anne Arundel County. So we have overwhelming support throughout those organizations.
This is strictly voluntary. Nobody is forced to participate in the program, and when they call you, you will set them up with someone who can help them navigate. That's why you're called a kinship navigator.
Yes. What I really strive to do is to eliminate the question for the kinship caregivers, the question being, where do I turn next for help? So one of the avenues that we took as an agency is to develop a Anne Arundel County Kinship Care Resource Guide. And really this is a guide for no matter where you are at in the experience of taking care of a relative's child. It should be easy to identify where I turn next for help. For example, in the areas of where do I find legal assistance, where do I find assistance on education enrollment, where do I find assistance on recreation park, youth advocacy, mentoring programs. Where do I find resources for myself? How do I, continue to take care of myself and be supported during this experience?
And mentioning the word supportive, you have 2 support group meetings coming up. You have one that's going to be on the 8th and one on the 10th of March. Tell me a little bit about them.
Sure. We actually started these groups and opened them up countywide after our Anne Arundel County proclaimed Kinship Care Resource Day by the county exec, John Leopold, and that was on October 7th, 2010. After that, we started running bi-monthly support groups countywide to any relative caregiver in the area. And we have chosen to use 2 locations, one being the Pascal Senior Center and one being the Anne Arundel County Library. So this month, we have one group coming up on March 8th, which is a Tuesday evening. That's going to be from 6:30 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. We are fortunate enough to be partnering with our student intern unit, who are all going to be social workers with their expertise in family functioning and dynamics. And they're going to be helping us facilitate a group on internet safety and parental controls, things like cyberbullying and how to go about doing restrictions for parental controls to protect your children and your family and to really know what's going on.
And then the event that's going to be on Thursday is going to be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the Annapolis Library?
Yes, the Annapolis Library on West Street. We are going to use the training room there from 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. And the topic for that, we have guest speaker Mary Fridley, who is owner of Jarrah Resources. She's also a columnist for the Capitol, and she speaks all around the county. So we're really excited to have her. And her topic of expertise is caring for oneself. So it's going to be about caring for the caregiver and stress management tips.
If anyone has any questions, they can call your number again to get all this information. And that number again is?
That number again is 410-897-3933. Every time that I take a call, I enter them into my mailing list so that they are kept abreast of any new kinship care information, resources, and referrals throughout the county. They can also request getting a mailing of the Kinship Caregiver Resource Guide, which is also found on the Anne Arundel County Aging and Disabilities website. And what is that website?
The website is www.aacounty.org/aging. And I wanted to let people know that we do put out a press release about the meetings, and that will also be on that website under the press release information category. Cher, thank you very much for coming on the program today and letting people know about Connections and letting people know about the support group meetings. Very much appreciate your being here.
Thank you for having me, Mary. Have a good day.
This is Mary Felter, Public Information Officer for the Anne Arundel County Department of Aging and Disabilities, and you've been watching Anne Arundel County Week in Review. Back to you, Carla.